So I was talking to somebody about how, I'm using or not using, I'm choosing to distract my attention from some of the pretty intense news happening here in the United States by focusing on something positive, such as the tale of Harry and Louis and Larry Stellanton. So that conversation, as I shared in the last video, had me inadvertently kind of converting a psychology professional friend into believing in Larry. And then the conversation segued to Zium because I was saying that, um, Zium and Larry basically confirms to me that the only straight person in the group was Niall, because Niall and his guitar was good enough for management. They didn't need to put him in the closet because there was no need for a closet. He liked girls, and unfortunately, anything other than totally straight is an issue in the music industry because people truly underestimate the level of homophobia that is in the music industry, that seems to be more amplified compared to Hollywood. So that said, I always wondered why with Larry, why were the other boys so supportive? Which, partly it's also generation, and they came of age in the early 2010s. But I think that part of the reason why you had Liam and Zayn being supportive was mainly because they were having their own thing too, and then Niall was just being Niall and clearly accepting. So that tracks. And and I haven't been paying attention, but there's been a lot of uh, discussion and upset in the fandom because they feel that the coverage of this relationship and the PR of it all is overshadowing Louis' music, and it's as if Zara is eclipsing the coverage. Like it's more about who Zara's dating than who Louis dating. Now, part of that could be because Zara is maybe a bit more current in the kind of consciousness, because I think Love Island was not that long ago. However, Zara is 28, Louis 33, so they're contemporaries. But Zara is somebody that had some recent, yes, like some recent coverage, but her coverage was kind of waning. And I don't know whose idea it was to put these two together, but there's been chatter about her initially being a beard for Harry, which would have doesn't make sense either. I mean, I just can't imagine Harry dating somebody like Zara. Nothing, not a disparage of her, but also after Olivia Wilde, it's like it doesn't make sense. Or after Taylor Russell, who kind of, well, that was a bit controversial, but nonetheless, it it's possible that they tried to somehow reinvigorate interest in Harry with Zara, but then he didn't want to do it. And I've been wondering why or he, meaning Harry, looks kind of a little depressed. So this was clearly plotted for months, this little PR thing. Now, when you Google Louis Tomlinson, this has really been pissing me off, is that it's all about him and Zara. Now, when you click on a story about him and Zara, the the read more suggestions are either him and Zara or Sam Thompson, Zara's ex, and Sammy Alishi. So it basically looks like what they're trying to set up is this thing of like a showdown at Soccer Aid, because Sam's going to be there. Sam and Zara were together 5 years, and then it's like it's like a soap opera script in real life. But I mean, I'm curious if all this is a kind of prelude to developing lev- uh, amount of footage that's going to be interspersed with Louis' sister's reality show. And by the time that show premieres, it'll be a couple of months down the road. And then there will be all this footage of like Louis and Zara loving it up in Costa Rica to boost that show's ratings. And then segueing into Soccer Aid, then you'll have you'll have kind of like that subplot of this potential showdown on the soccer field with Sam and Louis, and will they win, and will it be okay, and all these people tuning into it, which boosts the revenue and potentially the proceeds that are going to be generated for this fundraiser. Like it's got like this is the level of stunt. So this helps Louis, this helps Soccer Aid, this helps whatever Zara's up to, helps Louis' sisters, and it it just it's a really it's I can see how the logic of it um is playing out, but I don't know if the marketing analytics folks uh really took a good look at how feasible and just honestly what is the ROI on this, because it just looks kind of hokey. Louis looks like everyone is saying he looks a little bit exasperated. And of course, the ever jealous Harry looks very, very despondent to me. I don't know. I hope I'm just projecting and I'm reading into it and he's just tired. But like I said, I miss the beaming eyes and I miss the grin. Now, when you look at even the coverage of Louis and Zara, it's about what Zara wore. She wore this pink dress, and then it looks like she's posing as if it's going to be part of like a layout feature in like Mademoiselle. It's just, this is screaming contrived and artificial. So, what shall we say about this whole thing? Now, a source is saying that Louis and Zara are going from strength to strength. Um, okay. And then it has to mention that Louis going to be back. Okay, look at the timing here. Louis going to be back in the UK for Soccer Aid next week. So next week, the week of June 9th. And then he's set to play on the England team with Sam Thompson. But then Zara is going to skip Soccer Aid to avoid an awkward run in with her ex, who's now with this other chick. And then, I mean, shit, like Zara only split from Sam January, moving out of the house. And then, oh, what a bitch. She leaves behind the two cats, apparently. I don't know about you, but I can't imagine Louis not noticing that. Louis notices a lot of things according to everything that we've kind of learned about him. But like there's all these still photos of her in like showing off this pink chiffony dress. And then the article mentions that um, Zara had formed close bonds with Louis' sisters. And here we go. They recently teased a new reality show, Phoebe and Daisy. And Zara is, or sources are claiming Zara has been helping them behind the scenes thanks to her experience. Okay, so this is like Zara in the Mutual Beneficial Society finding a way to get back on TV, leveraging the large audience base that's going to come with the Tomlinson twins. So, um, yeah, and of course they know that enough people out there are going to be really anticipating seeing Zara on the show, and of course all the Louis and Larrys and everyone who was a One Direction fan who is following the story. But also the people who are following the story because they don't believe it are going to tune in because they want to analyze. They want to like really find more proof. I mean, I don't think at this point that we really need more proof. I think it's just on face value, it's pretty damn obvious that this is a stunt, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's like marketing brand deals that are going to come out of all this shit. Um, and I'm just looking at the Google search results in the last 2 to 4 days, all about this Costa Rica thing. Somebody had said in one of the Larry Silenson Facebook groups that people are apparently really strict when it comes to paparazzi, which again, so yeah, notoriously private Louis somehow got himself snapped in Costa Rica, a notoriously like supposedly, well, I'm gonna just assume that whoever said this is right. A fairly strict place when it comes to, in when you can take a photo of someone that's a public figure, right? Which means you had to get permission because nobody got in trouble for snapping photos of you on a deliberately public location where the cameras don't have to even work to find you. Okay. All right. Now, somebody on the Larry Stylinson Reddit has also alluded to some very particular, very particular Twitter exchanges that got very, very nasty. Um, Now, I don't know what exactly happened on Twitter since I'm not on it, but needless to say, the summation of what happened on Twitter is that there were people that were antis making comments, people that were unfollowing Louis, and then uh, people posting about how they were really angry about this stunt making no sense. What is Louis doing? We're exhausted by this. And there's been what appears to be, especially fairly long-term fans, there's been a level of time investment, which, the more time you invest in something, the more valuable it can be emotionally. But we're already very emotionally invested before the band went on hiatus and they all went in their solo careers. But there were people who were on, like, very big Louis fans who talked about how they have, unfortunately, this was deleted off the Larry Salas and Reddit, but how they've invested time buying his music, buying the music for friends to increase his sales, posting about trying to get his music played. And it's not just one person. There's a whole army of these Louis fans that have done this, and they've been the people that have been there from the beginning, which makes me wonder if there comes a point where they've kind of crossed a Rubicon about this, where they have become so invested in supporting Louis, and the Zara thing is perceived as a slap in the face, and some of the, I guess, Twitter activity just maybe aggravated them more. Now, you know, I can see, there's a saying that if you're too close to something, you're not going to be objective about it. Like, that's just obvious. But I wonder, and since I'm a newer Larry fan, I was always a Louis fan, but I wonder if the veteran fans who listen to this can just shed some light here as to at what point does the investment feel like it's serving a personal purpose for the fan invested. I also think, too, that if a person has um, invested very much money, so money in terms of traveling uh, to the different venues, money in terms of buying merchandise, money in terms of buying music. So anything to support Louis' career, which commercially, that's where the fans come in, and there's been a concerted effort. At what point do you think somebody has crossed a Rubicon and, for legitimate reasons, may feel that their support's not been appreciated, but at the same time, maybe forgetting that we won't ever really know what's in these people's heads, because quite frankly, not even if they have a therapist, not even their therapist truly knows what's in their head, because people, believe it or not, may not be fully disclosing to their therapist the whole picture, because, yeah, you know what? That happens. So the only person who truly knows what's in Louis's head, Harry's head, anyone's head, is that actual person themselves. And sometimes, haven't we all had this, where we sometimes don't even know what we're thinking? The thing is, there's clearly some kind of marketing push. There's some kind of leveraging of the social media clout that these people have. I don't know who the marketing team is, but I kind of had my own theory today. The marketing team who eventually put Louis with Zara for this stunt, because I'm basically at a point saying this is a stunt. I don't buy it. And if Louis gets mad at me, so be it. Um, the marketing team might actually be putting Louis with Zara because it's to be bringing him current, bring him out of the fringes, bring him out of like the alternative scene, kind of bring him back into the forefront because Zara's kind of like mainstreamy in a way. It's just unfortunate that she's a bit of like a she's a Tory supporter or a conservative supporter, and she's kind of said some things that people are very concerned are gonna taint Louis. So all that said, I can understand why people are upset at the stunt for many different reasons. I think ultimately, if we're here to help his music get out there, that's kind of all that matters.